Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Chronicle Q&A call. I'm Steve Burdett here with the ERP team, and we'll just give it about 1 more minute and we'll go ahead and get started. In the meantime, if you could let me know in the chat box if you're currently using Chronicle or thinking about it in the future. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Gwen. Is anyone else currently using Chronicle? Okay, great. And we actually have a small group today, so if you would like to, as we go through, if you want to take your oh, okay, great. Thank you, Mariella. So we do have a small group today, so if you just want to you can either put your questions in the chat or you can just unmute yourself if you'd like. So we'll kind of go through Chronicle and go through the reporting features. All right, so, and I'll actually just start off with the ERP homepage, which is diabetes.org/ERP. And if you scroll down, you will see a tab here for Chronicle Diabetes. And here you'll find everything Chronicle. So whether you're looking for report guides, any type of guide, or even webinars, we also have the demo site here. We are having some access issues, but they should be resolved by either today or tomorrow. But you can actually access the demo site and the sandbox where you can enter in fictitious information. You just want to be sure that if you are using the demo site that you do not enter any real patient information. Okay. And for programs that are thinking about it and want to know the first steps of using Chronicle, the first thing that needs to be done is to sign the business associate addendum, and that is the legal agreement that basically covers all the HIPAA and high-tech information. Then we have your setup guide and capabilities, just gives you a high-level overview of what Chronicle can do, depending on what capacity you'd like to use it. Okay. And if you're not currently using Chronicle but thinking about it, just keep in mind that Chronicle does not integrate with any other electronic health records. But with that being said, you can use Chronicle to minimal capacity and it'll still aggregate your outcomes. If you do use it to a capacity where you're documenting education, then that information will integrate to the application and annual status reports when it's time to report that data. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and jump right over to Chronicle here. And Chronicle is housed up of 4 main tabs. So you have your patients tab, houses all of your patient records. And what you're seeing today, actually, I should have mentioned this before, is Chronicle Pro. So the basic version of Chronicle is free to all recognized programs. Chronicle Pro is available for a subscription fee. And the main difference between Chronicle and Chronicle Pro is that we built out Chronicle Pro as an extension to be able to audit your charts for you. So, for instance, if you're familiar with, if we're for an application, if we're looking for a chart, or if you're chosen by CMS or ADA for an audit, then basically Chronicle Pro audits your charts for you. So you'll notice here, the red dots, these indicate that these charts do not meet the standard 5 requirement, which, if you're familiar with that, that's the A through I cycle. So for instance, if you look and you want to know why these participants are not, why the lights are not green, that just means that over here under missing, it shows you what elements of the A through I cycle are missing. And with that being said, you can just simply click on the chart or the patient record. And then on the left, you'll see a series of red and green dots. So this is showing which elements of this chart are not complete with red and then complete with green. And then we have a calendar function with Chronicle Pro that shows any one-on-ones or groups or follow-ups that are, you know, on the books that you have set up already in the system. And the education tab, similar to the patients tab, is listing all of your one-on-one and group sessions. And then the reports, which we'll go into in just a bit. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you'll see the create new patient, manage cohorts. So cohorts are really just a way to group your participants. Chronicle already has an extensive filter report, which you can filter by clinical data, you can filter by demographics, you know, it's almost endless as far as the filters. But if there are filters that are not there already, then you can use the cohort function. And basically all you would do is create a cohort, put the name in, and the name would be really what the cohort is. Like, for instance, if your program has grant funding and you want to track those participants, you know, anything that's not currently in the filters, you can add as a cohort. And then when you create new patient records, you can add the patients into cohorts as you go. And patients can be in more than one cohort. Providers, this is really just a provider database. If you're new to using Chronicle, I'd recommend putting in all the providers that you currently have. Just because when you assign the provider to the patient, you can then filter out reports, you know, aggregate and individual, if you'd like to send that information back to those referring providers. And so, for instance, as I mentioned before, you know, if you're looking for patient, let's say you're doing a renewal or an original application, and then let's say that you do need to send a participant chart in, you can simply use the filters here. And let's say here my cycle status, I only want to see complete patients. So we'll see these have green things on there, green lights. But let's say maybe you were chosen for an audit, and maybe I need to pull my charts from the past 6 months. So you can display more filters here, and you can filter this out by, you know, when they were last seen, or, you know. There we go. Quinn, great question. If a patient only came in for one session and the follow-up was done via phone and the number we plan to report, you can, but that would be considered a complete chart, Quinn. So like if they were initially coming in to and you were planning to do the complete cycle, the complete A through I cycle, you can still put them in and include them in your numbers. But you want to keep in mind that when we're looking for charts, they would need to have that whole assessment, all this information here. So if a participant is like a one and done, maybe they're coming in for something but they're not being taken through the cycle, you can still enter them in here. But if they're not going through the cycle, it may sway your numbers. But if they are included in your numbers and you may not have outcomes, that's completely fine. Yep, you sure can.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Steve, good morning, and thank you so much to support us through this process in February this year. So our main concern, because we are new to this platform, so from the first of the year, we start using Chronicle. So everybody come through our clinic, we put them in Chronicle. So next year, when we do our report, I just want to know which patient it consider we can report them, talk about number, or which one we cannot report it to ADA.
Okay, so, and I'm just gonna go actually to a. So really what we're looking for when it comes to numbers are participants that are being taken through this entire cycle.
Uh-huh.
So if you know, if you are reporting out, let's say you do have a few participants that just come in for one session and them not being taken through the cycle, it's not gonna affect anything with recognition if they're not like if they're not going through this cycle. So if you have maybe let's just say 10 that completed the program, like they did this A through I, but maybe a few of them just came in for one type of a session and then kind of like a one and done,
Yeah.
those can be included, but they may sway your numbers. So, but we don't look into that. Um, you just want to keep in mind that um, if you were chosen for an audit, we would be looking for complete charts with this A through I, but you can still absolutely put them in Chronicle. I mean,
Uh-huh.
the reporting them out to us, you know, when you're importing that data to your annual status report, that's not going to affect anything with recognition. You know, you can still import that information, but you know, if they're a one and done, you may not have follow or you may not have outcomes for them, which is also fine. Um,
Well, so this is the situation because most of our GDM patient, they only come normally, they only come for one session. And then the second section supposed to be follow-up section with us, but we should do it over the phone. So what we did our initial appointment with them, we're tracking their fasting blood sugar. So when we call them, like follow up in a month or two, that's what we're tracking, fasting blood sugar.
okay.
So in my mind, will that be a complete chart that I can like report? Because I don't want to say, hey, we see 100 patients, but actually there are only 80 of them have an A to I cycle complete. Another 20, can we report them or not?
You can, you definitely can. So in like with different populations, the cycle is different.
Uh-huh.
You know, like peds and then GDM, they may still have a form of a cycle, but it'll be different than your general DSMES participants. So you can still report that number out because you are seeing those participants. It's just a different cycle, if you will. So you can absolutely include those in your numbers, but you know, keep in mind that I think as you mentioned on your email question that they may
Uh-huh.
not have all if you're not doing the assessment, you know, or any certain number of these, like they just wouldn't be a complete chart. So you just wouldn't choose them if you were chosen for an audit. If
Gotcha.
that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because we are starting to see insulin pump patient. So the first section is just strictly put them on the pump. So they will not fill out all of this information for like assessment health status. All we do is just pump training. So that's why everything on her chart is red except the general information.
Yeah, I know the red light it is kind of alarming, but that's completely fine because not everyone's going to have a you know, not all your participants may not have that chart. So which makes it easier. So in the case that you know you were chosen for an audit, and let's say we want to see the number of, you know, 5 charts from the past 6 months of operation, then
Uh-huh.
and you would already have plenty. So you would just kind of filter this out by complete and you can use these charts, you know.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, you just wouldn't provide that to us if we were looking or Medicare, if you were chosen for an audit. You would just, you know, filter here through your complete charts.
Okay. Yeah, because when my boss looked at all the red lines, she didn't like it. I'm like, okay, I'll clarify that on the call today.
Yeah, no, it's just it's kind of like just guardrails. So, you know, we would it wouldn't we don't see anything in any of our programs Chronicle. So we would never question the number of participants that completed your program over the past year. You know, if let's just say it's 20 and maybe 30 more, but they didn't do the cycle, we would never question that. It's, you know, it's just different programs have different volumes, and you're really, you know, you're just using Chronicle to track those patients even if they're not taken through the cycle. So that's completely fine.
Okay, but it's a mandatory. We still have to report them because we see them even though they didn't complete the cycle, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, if they're not completing the cycle, then you don't need to report them out. But
Uh-huh.
as I mentioned before, if you're running an aggregate report and they're included in that, like if you import your ASR, the data to your ASR and they are included, that's completely fine. We wouldn't question it.
All right. I have more question, but I know you will answer my question and you go through the lecture today, so I'll wait.
Yeah, I can definitely answer any questions. Since this is like a small group, I mean, we're pretty much covering everything. So if this could be helpful for Mariella as well. If you have questions, I can kind of go through.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to go ahead and let me know your question or question?
No, because I think you go through each tab, so I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm gonna let you go with your flow. But when you go to that tab, I will ask.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll just click on one of my complete patients and you'll see here we have all the green here. You have your general DSMES information for referral. With each referral, you can actually upload here, or you can indicate if it's required by insurance. And you have the option to either upload your referral so it's in Chronicle, or you can indicate that it is readily available outside of Chronicle. So that'll turn this section green as well. And then we have your assessment here and health status sections. So each of these has an edit box, but you do have the option to do the edit DSMES assessment here, which allows you to do the one pager. So it's just taking away some of those clicks. All right, and then the same goes for your health status section here. And then your DSMES and follow-up. So this is where all of your one-on-ones and groups are documented. Just keep in mind that the pre-assessment and post-evaluation here will not be available to edit until there is at least one one-on-one or group here. And then for the pre-assessment, once you enter in this information and indicate where they're, with each of these learning objectives, this will populate down here. And you just want to keep in mind that anything that is under a 3 needs to be taught. So in a one-on-one or group, you would need to cover these topics. And then there must be a post-evaluation after. And once that's complete, and patient's follow-ups is yes, and the education is complete here, then this section will turn green.
Okay, can I stop you right here, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the patient complete education program, we're gonna put the date when we finish the follow-up, right? Or the date that they finish the section with us.
Is that for here? Is that?
Now go back up a little bit. Okay, so on the education status, the patient complete education, program, you just highlighted.
Okay.
Yeah, so this date is the day that we did the follow-up, or the day that they complete the section with us?
Yes. This is basically after the last step of the program.
Oh, the last appointment of the program. Okay.
Yeah, once they're marked complete, that could be like, let's say they completed the program in let's just say June, but maybe in July is when you did that last follow-up with them to follow up on that behavioral goal, or maybe a lab, like a weight or blood pressure.
Yeah.
That can be when you close out this cycle and marked as complete.
Okay. All right. So, okay, got it. On the follow-up, okay, on the pre-assessment and po-evaluation, that's it happened on the same day, right? For example, yesterday a patient come in, I went over disease processes and physical activity. I only have time to address that 2 areas. So I did my pre-assessment and then I did my po-evaluation for the same day section, correct?
So the post-evaluation can be done throughout the education process, or it can be done at the end. Programs do it differently.
Okay.
It's really up to them. So the pre-assessment is really where they at on those topics when you're initially, initially find out basically when you're creating their education plan, which topics needed, because some, participants may choose not to do physical activity, so that may be something you don't need to teach. You know, it's really up, it really goes around the participants' needs. So throughout the education process, you know, that could be series of group classes or individual classes. You can actually complete this post-evaluation as you go, or if you have some type of evaluation at the end to ask the participant, you know, to follow up on these, you can. So that's really up to you. But you're really right here assessing the learning after education is complete or after these topics are addressed, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes. Okay, now it makes sense because we thought that it had to be done on the same day of the appointment. Like, okay, this is what if the problem identified. This is the, you know, knowledge that you gain after your session. But we didn't know it's a continuing eval.
You got it. Yep. And programs do it differently. Like if they're teaching, you know, maybe the first class they're doing nutrition and physical activity, and they can assess it at that time after teaching, or at the end, you know, it's really, we leave that up to the quality coordinator and the team.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
No, great question. Thank you. So next we have your behavioral change objectives. Again, here, like for instance, we have two nutritional management. We have a baseline and a follow-up. So the minimal requirements to meet F and G of the cycle are to have a baseline and a follow-up on at least one behavioral goal. And you can have as many as you'd like there.
So you told me it's okay for my patient to have 4 objectives to work on, but as long as they meet one of the, as long as I update one of the objective, it will turn green. And don't have to be all 4 objectives need to be complete.
You got it. Yep. It's
Okay.
just a minimum of at least one needs to have a baseline and a follow-up.
Okay.
Great question. And the same rules apply to your labs. You know, for instance, see which one we have here. For A1C, we have 2 data points. So that's what made this turn green. But just like Quinn said, you can have as many as you'd like. They may not all have 2 data points, but as long as one has 2 values, this will turn green.
Okay. And Steve, under the test result tab, can you drop down the box? I want to show you something. Okay, so you go down, you see patient experience under the, yep. Okay, we want to choose that at one of our measure now, outcome measure. What documentation or what evidence I need to collect to support that? Because A1C easy, right? It lab value because I can call a doctor office to get it anytime. But for this one patient experience, what do I use to measure? Like if you ask me, hey, where do you come up with the 80%, you know, on your patient experience, 90%? How do I get that to the ADA?
So great question. So with this, unfortunately, it does not aggregate. So the patient experience is really left up to the program. Like, let's say it's like maybe like a customer service, a customer satisfaction survey, just as an example. And maybe it could be 1 to 10 rating the program or rating their experience, you know, or 1 to 5, you know, that's really up to you. So with that being said, you could put anything in this box. Let's just say 5, right? And so for here, once you save changes, let's say you have that there. So really, you have a 5, right? And unfortunately, this doesn't aggregate, but you can pull it into you can pull it from a report in the reports tab. And I can show you that in just a second, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay, on our annual report status, you know, like we have to pick 1 or 2, you know, how do I say that? Outcome to measure, right? To report it to ADA. So A1C is a very popular one. So what is another one that we can use to measure because she want to see more than just A1C. My boss want to use more than just A1C to report next year.
Okay. So do you know what she wants, or did she give you an idea, or?
No, because I give her the list, like I give her the list of the test result drop down, I show to her and she asked me how about patient experience. I'm like, I don't know. Let me go on the call and ask that question. Because on standard six, on standard six behavior outcome. So we have been doing nutrition management, physical activity monitoring, and also A1C. So she wants to do something a little bit different. That's why she asked me about the patient experience. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, you can. I mean, let's just say, trying to think of a way that you could.
Because she just reached out to our patients advocate program, and they have a press gaining survey. She want to utilize that for patient experience tracking. So I'm like, this can be a good tool, but let me double check.
Yeah, and did they say how that is being reported? Like, is it like a 1 to 5, or is it like did they say?
It's either all or none, because with press gaining, they are very strict about it.
Oh, okay. So it would be like 100%, or
Yeah, but if you like 90, you still like, okay. But since you say it doesn't count anyway, so I just need to tell her we just need to focus on another measure, because for the standard six, we are already doing nutrition, monitoring A1C, and physical well-being. I don't know why we need to add more of this.
Yeah, I mean, you have plenty there. Those are great outcomes to report. Yeah, you may want to tell her that this is just an option. I mean, there's a report you can pull that shows each individual patient and what this is rated for them.
Uh-huh.
But outside of that, you would need to aggregate that however you are tracking it. So that may be a little barrier there.
Okay. Now, do you have a list of the outcome that is relevant to ADA? Like we already have 4. So what other on the list here?
So, I don't know, I'm just gonna go to, I'm just gonna pull up the renewal application template. Okay, so here are all your options to report out to us. So, like you mentioned, A1C is a big one, but we've kind of separated that so that we can kind of drill down a little bit with the data. So not only the percent of, A1C change, you can actually do the percentage of participants that have a decrease.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I exam for the same blood pressure. We can do blood pressure because we're stroke certified program. We can do that. Yeah, this will make more sense. I'm gonna send her this list right here so we can work from this list instead of just going crazy.
Yeah, let me just make sure that, yeah, I just put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Yeah, and the great thing about that, all these outcomes, Chronicle crunches the data for you.
Oh,
So,
awesome. Oh,
so I'm also going to show you, I'm back here on the Chronicle page, but this might be helpful for you, Mariella, as well, just to see what Chronicle can do. So this high level report. So of course, it breaks down all of your demographics, initial comprehensive, post-program, folks that didn't have any education, how many complete, all of the methods of DSMES and your average hours. Then of course your demographics, any barriers to care. So here are your behavioral goals, right? Here in the center.
yeah.
To the left are the participants that have chosen this goal. So they have a baseline. To the right are the participants that have a baseline and a follow-up. So out of the 10 that had 2 data points for nutrition, there's 65% positive change. And then here, like we mentioned, the blood pressure, A1C, weight. So this is aggregating all that information for you. How much?
Oh, wow, awesome.
Yeah, and this is just an example. So those are those. And then you also have your participant measures. Like, as I mentioned, what percentage had a decrease in A1C? What percentage, the higher level, what percentage
Oh,
has,
wow, okay.
so, and this does it all for you. It just depends on if this data is in Chronicle for these participants. But,
Uh-huh.
and the great thing about this report also is that through the filter report in Chronicle, you can filter this report out by provider.
Okay,
You can do it by provider, you can do it by, as I mentioned before, all those filters. You have the option to run the report as this high level report or an individual report where you see each patient record.
okay.
So that's just something to keep in mind there. And then we have the medications as well as communication to the provider, also an upload function.
Yeah, where do you have? Put here that you did all this, but I don't see no please
No, no, no.
And then
Watch it. I'm on a call. I'll take care of it. That's I'm looking for this. Sure.
so, and when we're referring to communication to provider, we have two options here. On the left here, we have the snapshot report and the DSME record report. So I'm just going to generate the snapshot report. So this basically could be what you send to the back to the referring provider. It shows like all your left, your interventions, education topics addressed, your behavioral change, when it was last assessed. And then to the right, you have your labs. And this is currently being revised for Chronicle Pro users. So it's going to be a little bit visually more appealing. And then we have the DSMES record report. So this provides you with their pre-assessment, post-evaluation. Below that, any follow-ups and what they were assessed at during that. And then all of your education plan information. And one last thing for the participant chart. So let's say you were chosen for an audit, or maybe you're uploading, you want to upload this somewhere, or maybe you want to print out one chart a month, which is what we recommend doing, in the case that you were chosen for an audit. So if you ever need to pull a chart, that is complete, you have two options here. You can print it, the normal patient chart report, or the de-identified. And this basically provides everything we would need if we were to audit a chart, or if you needed to provide a chart for an application. And we'll see as we go through, each section is labeled which were element of the cycle. So you have everything in that one-stop shop there. So I'm just going to go to the reports. And Quinn and Mariella, if you ever use, Quinn, you are using Chronicle, but I do recommend kind of playing with the reports.
Uh-huh.
Just because, like, as I mentioned before, right here, your filter report, this gives you endless almost,
Oh, wow, okay.
And you can add as many as you'd like, just as an example for A1C, maybe you want to see initial A1Cs greater than 9, but then maybe you also want these this report to include their most recent A1C less than, let's just say 7. So it's really as many filters as you'd like to include.
Okay.
And these filters can produce that high level report that we just looked at. I'm just going to cancel that. So then the second filter, this is where you can filter by provider. Maybe you only want to pull participants that were referred to by a certain provider. maybe you want to send them back that high level report to show how great your program is and your outcomes.
Yes, I need to do that.
It's a great way to promote your program to even possible new providers. You can say, you know, in 6 months, I can provide you with this data on your patients.
Okay.
So this would be, you know, for the aggregate, you know, but let's say, like you mentioned, that we want to see actually a list of patients. Step 3 provides you with all the fields that you can add to the spreadsheet. So you have your patient information.
Wow, okay, this is awesome.
And what we've just added, and this is for Chronicle Pro only, is now we've added all the hours. So now you can see their initial comprehensive, you know, hours, post initial follow-up within range. And when you see within range, that means this is only happening in this date range to the right that you choose. So you can filter out by participants only seen during that time.
Okay, so I can do this. Okay, so stay on the show both first and last lap. So you click on any labs you want, right? What happened if I only have the first one and I've lost my follow-up? Will that patient show up or don't? Or they only show up on, like, if the patient have both value, they will show up. If they only have one value, they will not show up.
If they only have one, they'll still be in the report. They just won't have that second value.
Okay.
And I'll kind of show you an example. I think I have it up already here. There we go. So this is what it exports in a web-based version, you know, after those filters I did. So, and this can be exported to a spreadsheet as well. So you see each patient record is a row. And it has the information here, like those hours that I chose. So you have your follow-up within range, you know, your initial and most recent A1C, we have that. I don't have a lot of weights, but some people do. So you get your initial and most recent weight.
Okay.
So these are just fields I chose. You can choose as many as you'd like. But to the bottom right here, when you hit preview, that's going to show that web-based version, but you can export it as a spreadsheet.
Okay.
I would ignore the Delta report. That's an older report, and we really probably going to be sunsetting that. But the Delta report data is the same as the high-level report. It's really for like data crunchers because it's a spreadsheet. So if you have data folks, they may want to take a look at that. Or you can export it as a high-level report, which we just looked at. And then let me, I'm getting close. There we go. Okay. So, but generally when you come to the reports tab, you have all of your reports here and it gives you the features and there's a guide for each report. So you can see how that, you know, how that information is being exported from, you know, from Chronicle. One of the newer reports for Chronicle Pro that we've added, we've always had an educator hours report, which shows like the number of hours, but it's in minutes, but the number of hours educators had one-on-ones or groups during a certain period. But we've actually built that out to where now you can drill down how many hours for one-on-ones, how many hours for groups, how many hours for a combination, how many hours for follow-ups, and how many encounters for that, for your educators. So, and I think I have that up here. Yeah. So I pulled this report for the past year, and this is showing all my educators, how many total education hours, and this is in minutes, how many were, you know, how many hours were one-on-one, how many sessions they did that were one-on-one, how many hours did each educator do for group, and how many sessions did they teach in group, and then it combines if you need that, and then follow-up time, like all of your follow-ups. So we, you know, over the years, because we do take ideas and considerations for programs that have requested certain things. And basically we've had educators request this report just to show administration what they're doing. You know, a lot of the times administration may not know everything that the educators are doing. Like they, you know, I've heard it anywhere from 80% education and 20% documenting, you know, of the time of the educator, but this really shows how much they are doing.
Steve, in the future, can you guys add a feature like you say, you know, 80% of education, actually patient education time? And how about, are you guys thinking to put in like a pre-education section, because we have to prep the material, we have to like with the patient file and individual their need, you know, and after that we have to document a patient. Can you guys build that in for the future?
You mean to document what percentage of the time the educators are using for documenting?
Yeah, for example, like I spend 30 minutes on one patient to prepare for what the tomorrow section. And then after that, I spend like 30 to 45 minutes to document that patient. So can you guys add on that in the future?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because it's not fair that, you know, okay, you guys think that, oh, you guys only spend 1 hour with the patient, but before that, I have a lot of prep work going in. And also at the end, we have to close out a case. We have to, you know, send a report to the education status report to the provider too. So it's also count the productive time, but that didn't get captured at all.
Yeah, no, that can. That's a great idea. Let me bring that back to the team. And I mean, I don't think it would hurt. I think it'd be very helpful because that way you can track how much time were you doing for administrative type of.
Yes, yes, please, yes.
Yep. Thank you for that. We're right now kind of getting our ideas together for what we're gonna release for next year. So I can definitely add that to the list. It could be something like it could be something as easy as like under your here, adding a column saying how many hours you know, how many hours did it?
Well, yeah, whatever that you guys want to label it.
Yeah, we'll let the developers figure out. They're great at that. They figure out the best way to do stuff. So yeah, let me bring that back to the team, and that could absolutely be I mean, it wouldn't hurt, and then it's a great way to show administration, which they, you know, typically don't really know what all is involved outside of, you know, education, unfortunately. But yeah, that's a great idea. So those are the newer reports. And pretty soon we're going to have, I'm hoping, well, it'll definitely be by the end of the year, but hopefully within the next month, there's going to be a new tab here. It's going to be Chronicle University. So it's going to have recordings on each of these reports and every component of Chronicle. So we're currently working on that, and then we hope to have that up within the next 1 to 2 months. All right. Mariella, any questions, or Quinn?
Yes, on the medication tab, some patient they come in at like pre-diabetes, so they don't take medication at all. So there's no initial so no medication for that patient. So when we did a follow-up, since there's no medication, you know, at the beginning, so there's no update for like no medication at the follow-up. But we don't have that option for the follow-up.
Oh yeah, so here, like for instance, you mean like once they're no, you want to come back and delete it?
No, okay, for example, we saw a patient last month. He wasn't on any medication at all. So this month, when we call him for follow-up, say, hey, how you doing? So when we go back to the follow-up section, we have to fill out medication, but then no medication to fill out. He wasn't on medication at all. So now you go to your follow-up summary, yeah, go there. See, there's a medication tab. If the patient have no medication from beginning, so there's no point. But they don't give us the option, you know, like no med. We have
Oh, okay.
to make it turn green. That's why my team just gets so frustrated. I'm like, I don't know. Let's ask them.
Yep, but so as long as during here that you have it marked as no, you should be good to go. It shouldn't, or is it not turning green?
It's not turning green for the follow-up section.
Oh, okay, so the follow-ups, those, like, once it's entered here under the medication section,
So go back to follow-up section. Yep. Uh-huh. So you see that one, let's see, you see like education record, hospitalization, behavior change, clinical data, and medication and notes. All of this needs to be filled out to be able to turn the follow-up section to turn green.
no, because follow-ups are not required. So this, whatever you enter in a follow-up here
Uh-huh.
should be, let's just say, for instance, everything else is complete. And now, let's say now you're going to do a follow-up. Let's say everything is green right now, and now you're going to document a follow-up. That should not change or hinder anything that you entered.
Okay.
Like, if I go in here, well, actually, let me just go ahead and turn the patient. And I'm just gonna end up, my initial, let's say, like, for your participant, no medications.
Okay.
So now we're green, right? And let's say
Yes.
I'll go into my DSMES and follow-up, go back to my follow-up summary. So
Yep.
this right here has no hindering on anything turning green or red. The
Okay.
only components are, that there is at least one-on-one or group here. Education is marked as complete, and that you have a pre-assessment and post-evaluation. So if I go in here and, it didn't even carry the no over, but you can add medications if you like. So this is really just a quick way, almost like a quick way to do your follow-ups instead of doing it through the other one. So
Okay.
it should have no hindrance on turning anything green or red, unless, like, for instance, I go in the follow-up summary, maybe like behavioral change objectives. Maybe if I accidentally
Uh-huh.
delete all these, it would then turn that back to the patient record. It would turn the behavioral change section red because I
Okay.
just deleted them. But if you're seeing something different, please, send me a screenshot.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, anything through a follow-up, as long as you're not removing anything, then it should have no hindrance on turning red or green.
Okay. For each patient follow-up, we had to click on new follow-up and have to go through all the section under follow-up, right? We have to fill out every single thing.
No, you don't have to. So a follow-up is really what I tell folks, because programs use it differently. I typically tell folks follow-up are used after the education's complete. And maybe you're doing just a quick phone call to follow up on maybe a behavioral goal or something like that. So
Yes.
if you do a follow-up here, you don't necessarily have to do all of these. It's really up to you, because some programs don't even use the follow-up. They
Okay.
they may even just go in if it's easier, because you don't want to do all that, or even if it confuses anyone to see all of those on the left side, you can even do just a new one-on-one as a follow-up. And it could just be, comprehensive education or anything like that. So it's really up to you. But I typically tell folks, because it is a little confusing, that you can use follow-up for anything after the A through I cycle, or even if you want to do the follow-up when you call them and check up on your weight and or blood pressure or anything like that, you can go through and just enter which ones apply.
Okay.
But you could do the same thing just by doing it here, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Because we're so new to the program, like everything had to turn green.
Yeah, don't let the red light scare you. It's okay. I get it. And let's see, Mariella's asking, what is the minimum data required? Okay, Mariella, that's a great question. Because we have programs that are using Chronicle to minimal capacity. So, and it'll still aggregate your data on that high level report that we looked at. So, and what I tell folks is and I'll just go back here, and like when you create a new patient, to create a new record, these are your minimal data points. So these are your minimal demographics to create a record, right? And then let's say once you do create that record, and let's say you are going to use Chronicle to minimal capacity, maybe the assessments in your EMR, and it sounds like you probably won't need to use Chronicle Pro. But let's say your assessments there, maybe your medications are in your EMR and et cetera. You can use Chronicle to minimal capacity. You literally create your record, go right to your behavioral change objectives, put in your baseline and your follow-up at, you know, when the time comes, and go to your clinical data, add the labs that you're tracking for that participant. And that's really it. And that's in that you'll still be able to run your aggregate, you know, your aggregate changes, which is what we look for on applications and annual status reports. Did that answer your question?
It did. Yeah, I just wanted to take a look at how, yes, how does it look like, basically? Because yes, as I said, we don't have that much capacity. So we wouldn't have to document, for example, like weight or like from here, like from this screen. Pretty much we're only documenting A1C, you know?
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, and it
Mhm.
really what I tell folks is whatever you want to get out of Chronicle as far as reporting is what you would need to put in it. So, you know, if most of the patient record is really in your EMR, but maybe your EMR doesn't crunch the numbers for you, then you can just do what I just showed and just get your minimal data points and it'll still do that for you. And just keep in mind that you probably won't be using Chronicle Pro if you go forward, so you won't have these red and green lights.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about the reds and yellow.
Yeah, and the standard version of Chronicle doesn't have the red or green lights. And in Chronicle, the standard version is free to all of our recognized programs.
Yes, which we are. Perfect.
Great question.
Okay. And I see this is web-based, right? How often do you have like updates to the software?
So it is web-based. We actually just relaunched Chronicle in October of 22. And then, you know, the development company is called Flipside Media. They've managed Chronicle and they manage the ERP portal. They're basically the developers for the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, you know, it's always updated as needed, like for HIPAA and high tech, or, you know, some of those technical terms that I don't know. But, you know, the first question your IT folks may ask is like, you know, okay, what do we need to download? You know, but nothing's downloaded. You can access Chronicle from anywhere that you have internet access. We do just ask that you know, to use the most recent version of your web browser and don't use Internet Explorer.
So like Chrome or Safari could work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Internet Explorer is not supported anymore, so if you try to access it, you'll probably see things in a different way and it looks a little jumbled.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So like about a week ago, I tried to contact you, well, you guys, and because I want to have like a demo that I also can share with my lead, just to, you know, take a look at it so she can see how it works and everything. Is it possible to get oh, you said you were working on like the logging or something, right? Because I didn't get any email with the demo keys or whatever.
Oh, okay. So you tried to use the demo and you didn't get the email?
Yes. So I emailed directly. So I tried that, but then I also emailed. And they said they would send me like a login, but I never got it.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. And that's to use this demo site, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had to actually prove to the developers that this wasn't working because I have like 4 work emails. I tried to use it and it's not going. So I just met with them yesterday. So this should be fixed soon. And I can email it to you once it's you know, once it's fixed, if that works.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you're in right here, I'm just going to put this in the chat for you, Mariella. So if you need a webinar for and this is for the standard version of Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because it might get confusing because when you go into the demo, it's going to be Chronicle Pro. But with this is just a recording when we refreshed Chronicle. So this one is not Chronicle Pro. So if they want to see a webinar on it, that's just the standard version of Chronicle, just refresh, then you can use that one.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Steve, I'm trying to maneuver through the report site, and I didn't get to, to the page that you have all to click like different option like age group, why. Yeah, I go to report tab. I go to create new feature.
Yep. So you create new filter and then you want to name it. So when you save it, it'll appear in this drop down.
Uh-huh.
And then step 2 are all your filters.
Okay, see it.
And
Okay,
then step 3 are all those fields that you saw you can add to your report.
got it. Yeah, I'm gonna play with this because I'm preparing for the next year report. So let's see how this work.
Yeah, I encourage you to do that, just to even just run, see what you can do, and then you kind of see your limits with the filters and all that good stuff.
Okay.
All right. Oh, we have about 3 minutes. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, so I have one patient last week. All she came in for a insulin pump software update. So do I still put her in Chronicle just to capture to report the number that, okay, this is the patient that I see? Because when I put her in, there's not much to fill out in the Chronicle for her. All I can fill out her information, her doctor, and her referral. That's pretty much it.
So are you documenting it also in your other electronic health record?
No, this is what we do because we go document the patient in Chronicle. Then we go download at the patient identification and de-identification. So I choose the identification. So and then I save it. Then I upload it to our platform because you guys are not talking. The Chronicle and Cerner are not talking to each other. So I have to upload into Cerner.
Okay. Yeah, that's completely fine. And it kind of goes back to what your initial question was. If they're not completing the cycle, can we still enter them in? And yeah, you can.
But is it going to affect my A1C as report though? Because I will not able to collect A1C from her. So
No,
for
that's
example,
yeah, that's okay, because if you think about it, even outside of Chronicle, let's say you have 50 participants seen in the past year. Maybe not all of them have a follow-up on their A1C or even a follow-up on a behavioral goal. That's completely fine. You would still kind of report out those 50 patients, but you would only have A1Cs on a certain number of them, but you'll still have an aggregate, if that makes sense.
okay, because I was just afraid that it's going to affect the percentage of the outcome.
If they don't have an A1C, it's not going to affect that outcome.
Okay.
Like it's only going to affect it. Let's say if you're doing another population that you're not really you're not reporting them out, but let's say they are entered, and the only way it's going to affect your A1C is if they have a baseline and a follow-up A1C.
Okay.
Mariela, I think you may have had a question. Oh,
No, I think that's pretty much it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, definitely. I'll let you know as soon as the demo is fixed, hopefully by the end of the day today. And then as always, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need anything.
Of course.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Steve, for your work.
Oh, thank you for everything you both do.
Have a great day, y'all.
You too.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.